Hi friends, I'm Laura. Good to check in with you all today. As you may have heard, some things are opening back up. So restaurants, stores, activities. You might notice that in the coming days some of these things are opening back up. And hopefully church will be opening up sometime when we are safe and ready to do so. So what I thought today's activity or this week's activity could be us doing something to help get ready for going back to church. We hope you've been enjoying church at home, doing the videos, hanging out with your family, and doing those activity pages that I'm sending each week. But one thing that I would like us all to do this week is an activity involving rocks. Some of you all may know Miss Michelle in the blue room. She is married to Mr. Steve in the blue room, and the two of them help out in the blue room, so some of you may know them, and they've helped with a live camp, and they are police officers in our community and are helping us all stay safe. And something that Michelle likes to do is paint rocks. And what I thought we could do is join Michelle in painting rocks to bring a little life and bring a little light to our property up at church. So you may have a rock at your house that's like round and smooth and perfect, or you may have, just like here, what I have, just this little rock that I found in the landscaping. So you might have to do a little bit of scavenger hunting around your yard, finding a rock. But when you find a rock, what we are going to do is paint it. So I'm going to get started painting it today. What you need is something just like paper or newspaper or something that you can paint on the surface that's safe and okay with your family. And then something to put your paints on. This is called a palette. A paper plate will do, or if maybe you're worried about spills, you could put a little bit of paint in the bottom of a plastic cup. You'll also need some paints. I'm going to use these, what I have here today. They're in little tubes. Sometimes they're in a little jar you can shake and squirt out. But I'm going to be using this. So what I'm going to do first is put my paint into my palette. And you might want to, before you even begin, come up with a good idea of what you want to put on your rock. You kind of have, there's kind of three different ideas. You could put a pattern on your rock where you paint it striped or spotted or zigzags or some really cool pattern. You could paint a picture on your rock. Maybe you're a good artist and you could paint a picture of a sunset or a mountain or your dog or anything like that, or anything in your imagination. Or the third thing you could put on your rock are words. So maybe the words that you could put are a Bible verse. If you are going to write a Bible verse on there, what I would recommend is using a Sharpie with your parents' permission. After you've already painted the rock, maybe paint the rock a color that's like a light color, then you can take the Sharpie and write on it, and that's going to be easier than painting on the rock and then having to paint little tiny lines. So I've got some paint brushes here that I'm going to use. I'm not using all of them, but I'm going to use kind of a bigger paintbrush to paint the whole rock a certain color. Then I might use a little tiny paintbrush. I'm going to write words on my rock. You're going to see what words. You could find like a little tiny one. Let me show you this little tiny paintbrush. It's so little baby and cute. You could use a little tiny paintbrush. Can you even see that side of that? It's so little. Or what I'm going to do is use the Sharpie method, because this is a very small rock and I don't think I can write words on there very well. So I think I am going to use the color, what would look nice on our trail? Maybe like a sky blue, maybe a nice blue. So I'm going to put a little of the blue paint onto my palette. And if you have colorful paints and then you also have white paint and black paint, you can mix it, and then when you mix those colors together, if you add white, your color will get lighter. If you add black, your color will get darker. Just add a little at a time. So I'm going to add white because my blue color I think is too dark. So I'm going to add some white. I'm going to actually put it in the little spot next to the blue. Then I'm going to use my paintbrush, kind of like a little shovel. And I'm going to take the paintbrush, I'm going to take a little white paint, and I'm going to put it in the blue, and then I'm going to mix. And I'm looking at that and thinking, that's still pretty dark. So I'm going to take a bigger scoop of white, put it in there. As you do this more and learn and practice, you'll do better. I don't want to spill this. So I'm mixing it up. I think I still need a little bit more white paint to add. You know what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to put a little blue paint into my white paint spot because I think I actually wanted more like a light sky blue. So it's going to be like a light blue. See that lighter blue I'm getting? With a little bit. You could also like do splatter paint outside if you want. Splatter paint some rocks. Anyhow, so I've got the color that I like. It's this pretty blue. And I'm going to take my blue paint on my brush and I'm going to paint my rock. You can set it down or hold it up. I'm setting it down because I'm trying not to get paint all over my fingers because I'm sitting at my desk. This is a good activity for outside. There's going to be maybe some warmer weather. You can do this outside. And I'm painting my rock blue. This is like the background color. I'm actually going to paint the whole rock because I think that that's fun. You can paint the back side of the rock. But what I'm going to do first is paint the whole front side of the rock. Paint. And then I'm going to kind of let it dry a little bit. And then you might want to put a second coat on it. Another option is after it dries a little bit, flip it over and paint the back like I'm going to do. But what I wanted to talk to you today about is walking with God. A lot of times when we become a Christian, we think that following Jesus and being a Christian is a decision. And it is a decision. It begins with the decision to trust Jesus and to follow him and believe that Jesus has rescued us. So it starts with a decision, but then after that, following God is like going on a walk. Have you ever been on a walk? Many of you may be taking a lot of walks right now because you're home. So I want us to start thinking when we are taking these walks with our family or on our own or with our siblings that we are walking with God. And God is directing our steps and taking us on a path that he chooses. There is a verse in the Bible that I really like, and it talks about walking in that verse. I'm going to read it. This is Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It says, "He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." That can kind of be a little bit confusing because there's some bigger words in there. So I'm going to read it out of the Message version because I think that kind of puts it a little easier for us. It says, "But he's already made it plain how to live, what to do, what God is looking for in men and women." So that's saying that God has already made it clear what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we might be thinking, what are we supposed to do with our lives? Who should I be when I grow up? But this verse is saying God has already made it plain and clear to know what we're supposed to do. It says, it's quite simple. Do what is fair and just to your neighbor. That's the first part. We know that, right? That we need to love our neighbor. Do what is fair and just to your neighbor. The next part says, be compassionate and loyal in your love. So when you see people who need help and you feel God moving in your heart to help them, that is compassion. So act on that. It says be loyal in your love. You don't want to just be friends with people because you think they're going to invite you to a party. We want to be loyal to people in the highs and the lows, and especially when they need us and they need our friendship. The last part of the verse says, and don't take yourself too seriously. Take God seriously. I don't know that I'm taking myself too seriously today because I'm painting rocks in my office, but I think that's a good thing to do. It says to take God seriously because it's talking about this part of the verse that says to walk humbly with your God. And that word humble is kind of like a big word that we might really not know what it means, but humble means to make ourselves lower. It's the opposite of being proud. And we don't want to be all proud and, oh, look how good I am, and everybody point to me, and look how great I did at this. We don't want to be taking credit. We always want to be humble and giving God the credit and recognizing that He is King. That's why it says, don't take us too seriously, take God seriously. So, in that verse, walk humbly with your God. What I hope that you can do this week with your family is paint some rocks. You can paint one. I'm just painting one right now. You can paint a lot of them. Then what I want you to do, after you paint your rocks, let them dry. Then go up to the church property when it is safe and allowed to do so, when your family is ready and when the guidelines say we can do that, which I think the guidelines say that we can right now. Church is open May 20th, but we're not quite opening then. But anyhow, you can go up and walk on the trail if you've practiced all of the good guidelines. So you can walk on the trail that Mr. Nick made. Mr. Nick has worked very hard for a long time. He works in the blue room as well with Miss Debbie, his wife. And Mr. Nick has shoveled and shoveled and shoveled so much mulch that is spread out all over our trail. You can walk on that trail that goes through the woods and comes back out and around the other side. It's kind of like a loop. You can walk on that trail and take your rock and set your rock onto the trail. After you do that, or before you do that, then get your mom's phone or something and take a picture of your rock and put it on Facebook. What would be really, really fun is if everybody paints rocks and places them around the trail, then you can go to Facebook and see all the rocks that are put around the trail. Then when you go out with your family, you can do a little scavenger hunt and look for those rocks. So I hope that encourages you to walk with God, not take yourself too seriously, but let's take God really seriously. You're probably wondering what I'm going to write on this rock, and I was going to write on it right now because I thought that would be fun for you to see. But my rock is very, very wet. I'm going to show it to you. At least I can show it to you. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to go out on the trail to see my rock? You're going to have to go out on the trail to see what I wrote on the rock. So I'm going to let it dry, then I'm going to write on it, I'm going to paint on the back, let it dry, and then I'm going to place it out on the trail, and I hope you can go on a good walk with your family, with God, and remember Him, and go hunt for those rocks. Talk to you soon. Love you lots. Paint your rocks. See you soon. Bye-bye.